I wished I could have knocked him out at the start. But as we saw, he came to my ears and whispered, "Please be easy on me." He thought I'm Mike Tyson and I will follow his script 40 seconds after I broke the clown's jaw. We are boxers, not content creators.
Like, they're suing me for something I didn't do. It's just the most bullshit thing. And I literally had to pay them a lot of fucking money.
The ending already detonated because Jake Paul isn't just facing a knockout loss anymore. He's staring down a Netflix lawsuit that could nuke his entire boxing operation. And nah, this can't be real. So rewind with me, because seconds before the lawyers showed up, this was sold as the biggest legitimacy test of his life, and now it looks like the same night exposed contracts, egos, and a business model built on noise instead of control.
I heard that Gervonta Davis was being very difficult to work with and Netflix was just waiting for a read.
Yeah, we think he broke his jaw. He's fine. We met with Netflix afterwards. He took a shower. He drove himself to the hospital. A broken jaw is very common in sports, particularly in boxing or MMA, and I think the recovery time from the...
Jake Paul getting sued by Netflix is not some random afterthought. It's the consequence of a billion-dollar platform realizing they bet on volatility and got chaos instead. And you felt it the moment the Joshua fight ended, because this wasn't influencer boxing. This was marketed as real heavyweight. Business with judges, doctors, executives, and global eyes watching. And when that kind of machine feels embarrassed, it doesn't tweet, it litigates.
Anthony Joshua didn't throw a single straight right hand for 6 rounds.
Think about how fast this flipped, because 1 minute Jake walks in, fearless branding dialed to 11, and the next minute executives are allegedly asking why the product they paid for detonated into hospital footage and canceled fights. And here's the part that should make you uneasy. There are whispers that what Netflix expected and what they got were not the same thing, and someone somewhere knows more than they're saying.
And not only did you not get knocked out, you dropped and said, "Wow." I was like, wow, that was nice. I was on the ground, I was like, that was a good shot.
Did he surprise you with his power?
To be honest, no, but I mean, he surprised my jaw.
Anthony Joshua didn't just beat Jake Paul. He removed the safety rails, and once those rails were gone, every prior promise got re-examined under a microscope, because Joshua wasn't a retired name or a novelty opponent. He was a fully functional heavyweight weapon, and the moment Jake started circling, instead of imposing, you could see the panic creeping in. Slow, subtle, and irreversible.
Looks like Jake Paul's trying to bait him into something, but he's the one that's hit the canvas twice in this round. Incredible.
This is where the experience gap turned into a public execution, because Joshua never even left second gear. And that's terrifying, because it means the danger was controlled, not accidental. And when a champion chooses patience over spectacle, it tells you he knows the ending already, and is simply deciding when to reveal it. And that decision landed in round 5 like a guillotine.
I love this shit, and I'm gonna come back and get a world championship belt at some point.
Are you surprised you went 6 rounds with the former 2-time unified heavyweight champion?
Honestly, I'm not surprised. I just got tired, to be honest. Like, it was just so much.
2 knockdowns didn't just drop Jake, they dropped the illusion, because those weren't lucky shots. They were the result of fatigue, fear, and accumulation, and anyone pretending otherwise is lying to themselves, because by round 6, it wasn't about courage, it was about biology, and the body always tells the truth, even when the brand won't.
I'm a little fucked up, but will you take care of me forever and ever?
I started talking crap to AJ at one point.
I was trying to get his head. I think I pissed him off. What were you yelling? I was just saying fuck him.
The broken jaw changed everything, because you can't meme titanium plates away, and you can't caption your way out of bone damage, and watching Jake try to spin hospital footage into content was the moment the crowd turned, because confidence looks different when it's earned, and when it's borrowed, and this suddenly felt borrowed from a system that finally said no.
Yeah. I'm sorry. But I just pissed him off, then he broke my brother's jaw. Fuck his jaw. Yeah, he broke his jaw. Yeah? You don't care, though. Jake's having a fucking blast. We'll see him back again for sure? Yeah.
Here's the time bomb. Nobody wants to touch yet. Netflix didn't just lose a fight night. They allegedly lost a planned future, because the canceled Gervonta Davis bout wasn't a rumor. It was infrastructure marketing sponsors, and projections already baked in. And when that gets pulled unilaterally, platforms don't call it personal choice. They call it breach.
Now, you asked me a question. Look, it wasn't the best performance. it wasn't the best. The end goal was to get Jake Paul, pin him down, and hurt him. That has been the request.
$100 million lawsuit doesn't come from confusion. It comes from fury and the word willful floating around. These reports should scare anyone who understands contracts because willful means you knew the consequences and did it anyway. And if that's proven, it doesn't just hurt Jake, it poisons his trust value across every serious promoter watching quietly.
Thank you very much. I'm here with the winner, Anthony Joshua. Anthony, congratulations on the win. How would you describe that fight?
Well, first of all, I want to give love to the crowd, everyone that came out. I really do appreciate everyone in this venue.
Ask yourself this and be honest. Why would a company like Netflix torch a relationship that profitable unless something behind the curtain went very wrong? And nah, this can't be coincidence because the smiles stopped instantly and suddenly the narrative shifted from punches to paperwork. And when suits replace gloves, the fight is already lost.
Because it's a civil lawsuit and it's just allegations. It's not criminal. So there must be some.
This is where the legacy damage deepens, because losing to Joshua was survivable, but losing the confidence of platforms is radioactive and sponsors don't scream. They vanish and future negotiations start colder, quieter, harsher. And once you're labeled unreliable, that stain doesn't wash out no matter how loud your fan base is.
Jake Paul, he's done really well tonight. I want to give him his props. He got up time and time again. It was difficult in there for him, but he kept on trying to find a way.
Another detail that keeps nagging at me is how calm Joshua looked afterward, because calm winners don't feel threatened, and threatened people don't sue. They move on, and yet Netflix didn't move on. They escalated, which suggests this isn't about ego. It's about control slipping and someone trying to grab it back before more leaks surface.
I don't like it. Even Anthony Joshua had some class and, apologized to me.
Did he really?
Yeah. He worked his way through the crowd and came up to me and said, "Mom, just know it's just boxing.
It's the fight game.
It's just the fight game."
I'm obviously.
And don't ignore the chatter about other fighters being difficult, because when multiple names start popping up in the same sentence, it usually means contracts were stretched to their limit, and one snap exposed the tension everywhere. And if one agreement falls apart, others start getting audited line by line for protection. The scariest part is this story doesn't feel finished because legal fights drag in discovery is messy, and when emails, texts, and internal conversations get dragged into daylight, narratives die fast. And if Jake thinks this stops at headlines, he's not reading the room, because this could get wooglier before it gets quiet. So sit with this unease, because the fight didn't end in the 6th round. It just changed venues. And now the pressure isn't coming from a heavyweight right hand. It's coming from corporate memory and legal teeth. And those don't gas out. They grind until something breaks. And I don't think we've seen this last fracture yet. What really settles in after all of this is the realization that the Joshua fight wasn't the problem. It was the trigger. Because systems don't collapse from one punch unless they were already under strain. And everything around Jake Paul's boxing career had been stretched tight for a long time before that night. The confidence versus competence gap is the thread running through everything, because confidence can sell tickets and headlines, but competence is what keeps partners calm. And the moment Joshua exposed the gap, every stakeholder stopped asking how big the next event could be and started asking how much damage control would cost. There's also a massive difference between losing a sporting contest and disrupting a corporate roadmap, because fighters lose all the time, but when a fighter becomes the hinge of a platform strategy, their personal decisions suddenly carry institutional consequences. Netflix didn't enter boxing for vibes or chaos. They entered for predictability at scale, and betting on a volatile personality only works as long as that volatility stays inside the cage and doesn't spill into contracts, schedules, and advertiser confidence. What makes this situation more severe is that Jake wasn't positioned as an underdog experiment. He was positioned as a cornerstone, a bridge between traditional boxing and modern audiences. And when a bridge collapses, nobody talks about how exciting it looked while it stood. The Joshua fight shattered the illusion that Jake could control outcomes through preparation alone, but the lawsuit threatens something deeper. The idea that he can control narratives after the fact, because legal proceedings don't care about framing or spin. Once lawyers get involved, everything slows down, and that slowdown is poison in combat sports, where momentum is currency because fighters need clarity to train, promoters need certainty to plan, and audiences need belief to stay engaged. Another uncomfortable truth is that money insulated Jake from reflection, and insulation is dangerous because when consequences don't immediately hurt, lessons don't fully land, and that creates a pattern of repeating the same risks at a larger scale. Joshua represented the ceiling athletically, but Netflix represents the ceiling commercially, and hitting both in rapid succession forces a reckoning that can't be solved with bravado or captions. There's also a shift happening in how crossover boxing is perceived, because audiences are starting to separate novelty from legitimacy more sharply, and once that line hardens, it becomes harder for future projects to blur it again. What's fascinating is how quickly the tone changed, from debates about Jake's courage to debates about his reliability, because courage is subjective, but reliability is binary. You either show up or you don't. The lawsuit narrative reframes the Joshua loss as part of a larger pattern rather than a single misstep, and patterns are what corporations respond to, not isolated incidents. This entire saga also exposes how little room there is for improvisation once you scale up, because what feels like independence at a small level feels like recklessness when hundreds of millions of dollars are involved. There's a quiet lesson here for fighters chasing influence, which is that influence magnifies mistakes as much as it magnifies success, and the higher you climb, the less tolerance there is for unpredictability. Jake's brand was built on disruption, but disruption without structure eventually scares the very partners who enabled it, and that's the paradox he's now facing. The boxing world has a long memory when it comes to business dealings, and reputations aren't just made in the ring, they're made in conference rooms where decisions about future fights quietly get made. Even if the legal situation resolves favorably, the perception damage lingers, because promoters and platforms don't forget who made their lives harder, especially when alternatives exist. What makes this moment feel unresolved is that it sits at the intersection of sport, entertainment, and corporate power, and those intersections rarely produce clean endings. The next move Jake makes will matter more than any tweet or interview, because it will signal whether he understands the scale of what he's dealing with now, or if he still thinks noise can substitute for trust. At this point, the biggest